Well, there's no point in hurrying now. I'm already 2 hours late as it is. Another minute or two isn't going to make any difference. I tried to call my wife from the office to tell her I'd be late because she worries a great deal about me.
John, is that you?
Yes, dear.
Where have you been? You know I worry a great deal about you.
Well, I tried to call, but...
And you know what eating late does to your stomach.
But the line was busy.
Please, John, don't criticize.
I'm sorry, dear.
You know I worry about you only because I love you.
My mother worried about me so much once that she took to her bed for 3 days. At the time, I thought of it as hypochondria. But my mother explained, rather firmly, in fact, that it was love.
John, your mashed potatoes are getting cold.
Love is not only guilt-producing, it's fattening.
John!
Step into my world. And welcome to it.
Mother, what is this?
An hour ago, it was spinach souffle.
I don't care for any, thank you.
May I ask why?
It tastes like gruel.
I understand perfectly.
How would you know what gruel tastes like?
From reading Dickens. All his starving, mistreated, freezing, brave kids ever had to eat was gruel.
Kept them alive, didn't it?
Sometimes.
Maybe you'll be one of the lucky ones. What we have here is the communication center of the home. The dinner table, the logical place for the family to discuss with each other the events of the day, share experiences, relate.
John, I want to talk to you about your... John, are you listening to me?
Yes, dear.
I want to talk to you about your rule that we must wait dinner for you.
What's wrong with it? It's a perfectly good rule. Logical, well thought out. Actually, it was originally my father's idea.
I know. When you were a boy in Columbus, Ohio.
Exactly. Well, my father was very firm about it. We found out a lot about each other at the dinner table. Well, for example, what happened in school today? Briefly.
Actually, today we didn't go to school. Our class went to the museum instead.
Ah. Well, I'm glad to see that your education extends beyond the four walls of the classroom. Did you see any Rembrandts?
No, but we saw a lot of naked statues.
We never had museums like that when I was a kid. What is all this fuss about eating on time? Most Americans are far too preoccupied with food as it is.
Then why do you insist we wait dinner for you?
Oh, that's different. If one must eat, one should eat with the head of the family.
And the head of the family should get home at a reasonable hour. It's unhealthy to go to sleep on a full stomach. Everyone knows that.
Now, how could Lydia's stomach possibly be too full? She never touched her gruel.
Don't cloud the issue.
Oh, well, and there's nothing to be concerned about. Irving and I are living proof that it's quite possible to go to bed on a full stomach and sleep like a log. We've done it all our lives.
You're being facetious, John.
No, I'm just debunking another old wives' tale. Did you realize that at one time, people with a heart condition used to sit quietly on park benches reading religious pamphlets? Well, now they're up and about at the crack of dawn, running all over the neighborhood in sweatsuits. I tell you, Ellen, times have changed.
Where are you going?
Oh, I'll be upstairs for a little while. I just remembered some work I've got to do.
I'm not surprised with your stomach full of meatloaf and your entire system working when it should be resting. Your brain is merely taking the consequences.
It's nothing of the kind. It just happens that the one thing I do better on a full stomach than sleeping is thinking. People never cease to amaze me. Here we are, walking on the moon, creating life in test tubes. Yet if you ask the average person if the night air is bad for you, he'll say yes. That same average person will probably also tell you that if you go out with a wet head, you will catch a cold. Well, it's simply not up to me to educate the average person. After all, I've got my hands full right here in my own home. Actually, Ellen has a point about late eating in my stomach, particularly if she's made a meatloaf. Oh, excuse me. You see, Ellen's meatloaf was never meant for the timid. Also, it helps if you're in the pink of condition.
Don't touch me, please! Don't touch me! No! Who's there?
It's just me. Oh, well, you were having a little nightmare, I guess. Nothing to be upset about.
It scared me.
Well, of course it scared you. Why, if a nightmare didn't scare you, it'd be just a dream, wouldn't it?
I'll bet I had one because I went to bed on a full stomach.
Don't go jumping to false conclusions, Lydia. Late romantic suppers are going to become a very important part of your life in just a few years.
I'll never eat another bite after the sun goes down. I don't want another experience like this one.
Well, I'm afraid it may not be quite as easy as all that.
Why not?
To be perfectly truthful, nightmares run in our family.
They do? Well, that's terrible.
Well, it's better than some of the things that run in other families.
Daddy, doesn't it ever worry you that we have such, well, strange people in our family?
No.
It does me.
Actually, I'm very proud to say that some of the most fascinating characters I've met in my whole life have been relatives.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, I guess. I've always had the feeling I'd be a little bit weird by the time I get to be 16.
Oh, don't be silly. You're a perfectly normal kid. You're the right size. You're fairly intelligent. You have a healthy imagination. What was your nightmare about?
A man in a black hat was chasing me around the house. He had green hair and hairy hands. And he kept screaming at me to stop running away because he wouldn't get me cooked in time for dinner.
There. I told you were normal. You see, that is a perfectly legitimate, first-class nightmare. Cut above most, I'd say.
Thank you.
It comes from a sense of the dramatic and the practical. Two traits closely associated with my side of the family. You take your great Aunt Hester, for example. She had a persistent nightmare that the house was filled with burglars prowling about, stealing everything they could get their hands on. Eventually, this nightmare turned into a perfectly good, solid phobia. Now, being a frugal woman, Aunt Hester did not waste a fearful moment of it. She took to putting all her valuables outside in the hall every night so that the burglar could take them without having to break her door down.
What's she doing with a surgical mask on her face? Was she a doctor?
No, she was a coward. You see, Aunt Hester wasn't only afraid of being robbed. She was also afraid that the burglar would blow chloroform under her door through a tube. So she always left him a little note, just in case he missed the point.
This is all I have. Please take it and don't use your chloroform, as this is absolutely all I have. You know, it's not a bad idea when you think about it.
For someone who's afraid of being robbed or chloroformed by a burglar, I think it's a particularly brilliant idea. Now, Hester's sister, your great Aunt Dora, out of respect for Hester, took a proprietary interest in her sister's nightmares and developed her own fear of burglars. Her approach, however, was slightly different. Being more aggressive, Aunt Dora shunned the nonviolent method and dealt in preparedness and direct confrontation. Every night, she would arm herself with a dozen pairs of shoes and heave them into the shadows at either end of the hall while she shouted a warning to whoever might be lurking there.
Hark! Hark! What does that mean?
No one ever knew, except Aunt Dora. And, of course, her burglars. Apparently, they respected the warning because Aunt Dora was never robbed of anything in her entire life.
Do you really think it was the shoes that did it?
I never questioned success. Now, you think you're ready to go back to sleep?
I'm not sure. What do I do if the fellow with the green hair and the yellow teeth comes back?
Whatever you like. You made him up. Remember that.
Well, I have a feeling when the time comes, I'm going to forget. Why don't you sort of stay around till he gets here and remind me?
That may not always be possible with you. Besides, you have something much better you can depend on. Your imagination is your strongest weapon. Don't ever be afraid to use it.
I don't have as much faith in it as you do.
You're a Monroe, aren't you?
Yes.
Very well, then. Just close your eyes proudly. Go off to sleep knowing that whatever comes to visit you is of your own creation, be it ghost or goblin or just something that goes bump in the night. They are yours to do with as you will.
I'd rather not have any company at all.
Why not? A friend is a friend, whether you can see through him or not. Look at Cousin Horace.
Where?
I was speaking figuratively. Now there was a man who knew how to use his night visitors with great dexterity and occasional profit. See, Cousin Horace was visited time and time again by a ghost. This was no ordinary run-of-the-mill sheet-flapping ghost either. Horace claimed that this particular ghost gave him tips on the horses.
Did he really believe that?
Horse players will listen to anyone. Horace called the ghost Jeremiah, and late in the evening, after everyone else was asleep, Horace would wait anxiously for Jeremiah to appear.
Jeremiah? Is that you?
Hiya, Bud.
Glad to see you, Jeremiah.
Likewise.
Is there anything you like, I mean really like, tomorrow at Aqueduct?
Now you know I don't like to tell nobody what to do.
Oh, it's all right. I don't mind. Jeremiah, I have great faith in your judgment.
Glad to hear it, but I let every guy make his own mistakes.
I'm going to bet Blue Storm in the fourth.
Bet Mama Moonlight. She can beat them pigs with 2 legs in her pocket. She's carrying lightweight and she's the class of the field.
Jeremiah, the Daily Double. What about the Daily Double? Jeremiah!
Did Cousin Horace ever win any money that way?
Yes, he did, but he lost more often than he won.
I guess that cured him from asking Jeremiah's advice again.
On the contrary, he always felt that Jeremiah was an excellent handicapper, but that he was a very unlucky ghost. I guess I'd better let you get some sleep.
Daddy, did you ever have any nightmares?
Constantly.
Really?
The ones I have when I'm sleeping are the ones that bother me the least.
Did you ever wake up screaming and frightened so that your father thought it would be dangerous to leave you alone before daylight?
Never. My father was a firm believer in the ability of cod liver oil to cure just about anything. As a consequence, we kept our problems pretty much to ourselves. However, there was a time once...
Good night, Daddy.
Oh, wait a minute. I think you might like this one. Come up here.
What time is it?
Oh, I don't know, 12, 1 o'clock. There was this time in Columbus, Ohio. I was a little boy, just about your age, I guess. I had a nightmare that brought the police to the house in the middle of the night. Nearly got my poor father killed in the attic. And Cousin Horace lost Jeremiah forever. Hey, are you listening? Well, as I said, sir, it's the fall of the year. The entire house. Now, on this particular night, we had dinner quite late, since my father was unavoidably detained downtown. He always insisted we wait dinner for him.
I guess everything you do runs in your family.
Well, that's as it should be. My mother was a little upset.
Please pass the potatoes. Now, John, don't eat so much. You know you're going to bed right after dinner.
Let him eat. He's got 10 hours to wait until breakfast.
9. Thanks to your getting home so late.
Who's gonna lock the doors tonight?
I'll lock them, Dora.
And the windows. When you lock the doors, they come in through the windows.
A lot of long shots are running tomorrow.
Horace, one more night of caterwauling with that ghost of yours, and you can seek other accommodations.
John, that's not nice to say.
Well, the boy's strange.
With just a little bit of luck, I could be the richest man in Columbus.
No one ever got rich betting on the horses.
Well, John, don't discourage the boy. At least he's trying.
Well, let him be quiet about it. I want young John to get more sleep. Look at those circles under his eyes.
Oh, I'm all right, Dad.
I'll bet anything you were late for school again.
It wasn't really my fault.
All right. Let's hear it. What happened?
Well, sir, there I was on my way to school when I saw this fire.
What fire?
John, he's trying to tell you. Go ahead, dear.
Well, sir, there was this fire, and nobody around to report it except me. So naturally, I had to run to the station and tell them what happened. Naturally, they all got very excited and asked me to ride on the fire truck with them because I was the only one who knew where it was.
Why didn't you just give them the address?
Well, I forgot the exact number. So anyway, when we got there, people were yelling and screaming and jumping out of windows. And then...
Then what, dear?
There was this girl. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she was 10 and a half. And she was trapped on the 3rd floor. And the firemen asked me if I'd mind saving the child while they were saving the grown-ups. Well, all that stuff takes time.
What an imagination.
That's not imagination, that's lying.
But he told it well. I believed him.
You believe that burglars are going to blow chloroform under your door at night.
I believed him, too.
Oh, be quiet.
Dad, nothing much goes on in school for the first 20 minutes anyway.
John, go to your room.
The boy hasn't finished eating yet.
Good. Then you won't have to worry about him going to sleep on a full stomach.
I'm hungry.
He's hungry.
2/3 of the people in the world go to bed hungry. Now he can have a sense of belonging.
You keep on this way, you could stifle that boy's imagination.
Let's hope so.
I think you're being willful and stubborn.
I am being realistic. That boy has got to stop all this fancy and get down to some plain hard fact. That's what life's all about.
He'll have time for that, John.
Well, he'd better hurry up, or he'll end up just as cracked as his cousin Horace, shouting at shadows for the Daily Double. The boy's a fool.
John, I won't listen to that kind of talk.
All right. You won't have to.
Where are you going?
To the attic.
You can't sleep up in that attic. It's cold and damp and dirty.
I understand cold and damp and dirty. What I don't understand is what's going on down here. Good night, Hester. Sleep well.
Sleep well. I haven't shut my eyes in 40 years.
Hark!
Oh, for heaven's sake, Dora, it's me, your brother.
I thought you looked familiar, but I couldn't be certain in this bad light.
Well, make certain before you go around braining people.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
I'm not lying. It's true. It's true. Fire. Fire. Fire!
Jeremiah?
It's true. It's true.
Sure, it's true. I know it's true. I told you he'd come back.
I swear. I swear.
Who's there? Who's there?
Liar. Fire.
You, Jeremiah?
Hark! Hark!
Oh, they're out there in the dark.
Operator, get me the police.
What does the person have to do to get a little peace?
It's the south side of the street, number 732. Hark! Hark!
Jeremiah, is that you?
Chloroform. Chloroform. Well, at least there won't be pain.
What's the matter down below? Are all of you insane?
Dad? John?
Jeremiah, are you gone?
Hark! Hark! He's killed himself. He's killed himself. He's fallen on his head.
I
cannot stand this kind of noise. I wish that I was dead.
All right, open up in there! Open up! Come on, open up! Nobody answers. Let's break it in. Yeah. Heave! Hit not me the door, you dummy!
What in the name of all that's holy is going on here?
Oh, John.
Jeremiah?
Don't you dare move!
Now, just a minute. I live here.
Now, let's don't sass the police department. Put him in a paddy wagon and keep him there.
All right.
Hey, no,
This one was throwing his shoes, and this one keeps fainting.
You are a bad girl. Take him away. Take him away, too. You keep out of it. We'll all go out together.
I'm sure glad Dad was awake. He'd never believe this.
A weirder group of dinglings I never hoped to see. Gives a fellow pause to think what fools these mortals be.
It's strange. I remember everything that happened that evening except the nightmare. Anyway, that's the way it was. You know, a lot of people wouldn't tell a hair-raising story like that to a child before they went to sleep. No, they'd sing them a lullaby, such as, when the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. No wonder they have nightmares.